Podcasts on UNC-TV.org are made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.
Author John Kasarda's new book looks at a new urban development form which suggests centering cities around airports and related businesses. Dr. Kasarda recently sat down with North Carolina BookWatch host D.G. Martin to talk about Aerotropolis, the way we'll live next.
You mentioned the environmental aspects and the pollution that results from all of these things coming together, and some people would say, look, building more airports, we won't, you know, with the shortage of, with the developing shortage, or the coming shortage of oil, and the environmental results that put a lot of carbon in the air. Air travel is already a thing of the past, and you and your co-author deal with this question in your book. Can you give us just a brief answer to
Yes.
that question?
Well, first there's a need to separate the myth and the facts. The fact is that aviation only contributes 2% to the carbon footprint, greenhouse gas emissions, and ultimately global warming or climate change, whichever term you wish to use. So it's minuscule. Compared to
minuscule relatively, but maybe absolutely, it's a significant.
Well, 2% is I mean, you think of the global emissions, it's a huge absolute number. But for example, animals generate 18% of those emissions. So that's something just to put it in the context, because many people feel, because you can hear the aircraft, you can see the contrails sometimes in the air, and you get the impression that, well, you know, maybe it is not 2%, maybe it's 20%, or maybe it's 30%. So people just have to understand that. Secondly, the industry, ranging from the aircraft manufacturers such as Boeing to the airlines to the airports, realize this is a challenge and a problem, and they have to address it. And so they are approaching this in a very enlightened way, looking at far more fuel-efficient engines, more aerodynamically designed aircraft that's lighter. For example, the new Boeing 787, the Dreamliner, and the A350 that Airbus's counterpart, that's being, the fuselage and wings are being built in Kinston, North Carolina, is all composite. It's very light. It isn't aluminum. And then all the work that's going on in substituting for fossil fuels, the biofuels.
Well, I would just say, I hate to interrupt you, but this is a topic that you and your co-author deal with in great detail and is very persuasive in your book. But since time's running out, I want you to, we have airports in North Carolina. Really, I think of 4 airports that I guess the question is, are Charlotte, the Triad, and the RDU, and the Global Transpark, are these Aerotropolises?
Well, you could look at them as emerging. They certainly aren't full-fledged, although Charlotte is well along, as is Raleigh-Durham and Greensboro. Kinston, of course, is relatively new compared to these airports. Let me move around. Well, you look at Charlotte. Charlotte, of course, is a major hub airport. It's the hub of U.S. Airways. It connects Charlotte nonstop to almost every city in the United States and many cities around the world. It provides a tremendous competitive advantage to Charlotte to attract business and industry that is time critical, and that's services as well as products. So it's a tremendous asset to that hub, to the Charlotte metropolitan area. The Greensboro airport has formed a niche primarily in logistics, air cargo, and aerospace manufacturing. It is right on the airport itself. We find Honda Aero, which is producing the very light jet, the most advanced of the, they call them VLJs, very, very light jets. It's the research center, World Research Center, World Corporate Headquarters, and Manufacturing Center for this. They have the largest, what is called MRO, Maintenance, Repair, and Overhaul, TIMCO, in the country, and they repair aircraft from all over the world. Federal Express, FedEx Express, has set up a hub at the airport. And what's interesting about all of this is the way in which North Carolina, if I could just take 1 minute, is really leading the way in aerospace development on the East Coast. If you look at engines, we produce the most advanced engines for the 777, the Boeing 777, the Airbus A380, the Super Jumbo, the new 787. They're produced in Durham and in Wilmington. I just mentioned the very light jets.
All because of our airports, or is this just coincidentally happening?
Well, you know, you could argue it's not, certainly it's not entirely due to the airports, but it's developing as an aerospace hub in part because of the connectivity that we have by air, and Greensboro is one of them. If you look at what I just mentioned at Greensboro, having Honda Aero located there, the most advanced very light jet, is very important. Or
is there a little city, is there the little air-related city growing up around the Greensboro airport?
There's a city developing on the airport. They have over 6,000 people that work daily in those businesses right on the airport property, and that's going to grow. And then you find along the interstate highways, which is really the value that Greensboro has. It is in the sweet spot of highway connectivity on the East Coast. So even connecting what's known as the Southern Autobahn, all the auto manufacturers that are down South Carolina on down to Alabama. So Greensboro advantage is not just air, but it's that amazing surface connectivity they have through the interstate highways that go through there.
I don't want to put words in your mouth at all, but my question, based on your description, is this: although Greensboro would be third in the competition of airports, at least perceptually, are you saying that it's got more potential maybe than the other two?
Well, I'm not saying it's got more potential, because the other two major airports, which are Raleigh, Durham, and Charlotte, are much better connected in terms of passenger service. But from a logistics standpoint, Greensboro has tremendous competitive advantage, and the people are building on that advantage. They've created an Aerotropolis Development Corporation, a global center for logistics, and they are trying to leverage the FedEx hub, the highway connectivity, and the other forms of multimodality, that's different transit modes that converge in the Greensboro, High Point, the Winston-Salem area.
See all of DG's conversation with author John Kasarda tomorrow night at 9:30 and again on Sunday at 5.
Podcasts on UNC-TV.org are made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.